for the City of Brighton for Tuesday, January 15th, 2019. And before we start, we just a big welcome back, Mary Ellen.
Thank you.
Good to have you. And at this time, I'd like to rise and ask Roger Peer, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? It starts with I pledge, Raj. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, Roger. Madam City Clerk, would you please call roll?
Mayor Kreitzer?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards?
Present.
Councilmember Baca?
Here.
Councilmember Blackhurst?
Present.
Councilmember Humbert?
Mr. Humbert is excused.
Councilmember Johnston?
Present.
Councilmember Mills?
Here.
Councilmember Pollock?
Here.
Councilmember Wallen?
Here.
You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the regular agenda. Mr. Rodriguez, is there any additions or changes to tonight's agenda?
Good evening, Your Honor. No, there's no changes. Thank you.
What's the pleasure of council? Councilman Wallen?
Thank you. I'd move to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion, do I have a second? Councilman Blackhurst.
I'd be happy to second that motion.
Have a proper motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda. Roll call vote. All votes cast. Motion passes by a vote of 8-0 with one absent. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Madam City Clerk, would you please read into the record tonight's consent agenda?
Item 3A, approval of the December 4th, 2018 City Council minutes. Item 3B, approval of the December 18th, 2018 City Council minutes. Item 3C, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Brighton, Colorado, authorizing the submittal of an active grant application to Adams County for the Veterans Park Playground and authorizing the City Manager to sign and execute the application. Item 3D, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Brighton, Colorado, authorizing the submittal of an active grant application to Adams County for the Ken Mitchell Park Basketball Court and authorizing the City Manager to sign and execute the application. Item 3E, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Brighton, Colorado, authorizing the submittal of a mini-grant application to Adams County for the Mativi Open Space Pollinator Garden and authorizing the City Manager to sign and execute the grant application. Item 3F, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Brighton, Colorado, appointing Greg Young as an at-large member of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board to fill an unexpired term to January 2020. Item 3G, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Brighton, Colorado, appointing Corey Moll as an alternate member of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board with a term to January 2023. Item 3H, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Brighton, Colorado, reappointing Dave Swanson as an agricultural member of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board with a term to January 2023. Item 3I, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Brighton, Colorado, reappointing Amanda Griffin as a member of the District Plan Commission with a term to January 2023.
Thank you, Natalie. What's the pleasure of council? Councilman Blackhurst.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll second that motion.
I have a proper motion and a second. We'll call, or was there further discussion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Johnson.
Yeah, I wanted to just comment that I'm going to have to vote no on this consent agenda because there's a name on the list that I would definitely not want to approve or recommend to a board or commission. I'm saying this because in the future I think that it might be smart of us to look at each individual since we don't interview them anymore and only the board and commission does, instead of just place them on the consent agenda in the future. That's all I have. Thanks.
You could sure, I mean, Jack can help clarify, but you could sure pull that.
Yeah, we can pull one item to where it's handled separately.
But since the agenda's already been approved?
No,
We haven't voted.
You can separate that one item.
Okay, I'd like to actually separate all items. I believe it's, I don't have the agenda in front of me, down below C, thank you, from starting at Yes, starting at F through I, just not just for now, but for in the future also, if there's any problems or if that we need to ask any questions of these people before we just rubber stamp them into one of our boards and commissions, which I find very important, and I know we all do.
Okay, so you are asking that we pull items F, G, H, and I from the consent agenda to be acted upon individually?
I am, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Now, Jack, I'm going to ask for some help on that because we do have a motion and a second. We would just ask that those be withdrawn.
No, then what would happen is you can vote on the consent agenda through item E.
Okay.
And then handle those 4 items afterwards.
Right here, okay.
And just clarification, this is not just for one name on this list, it's also for the future. I think it would be good of us to know each name and be able to simply approve or ask any questions of these people since we don't interview them whatsoever.
Okay. We'll take that in advisement. I think that's something we should discuss at a study session because we have changed our protocol on dealing with this to this format now. And so tonight I will entertain that, but I think we should probably discuss the procedure going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So the motion is to approve the consent agenda up through item E. Roll call vote. All votes cast. Motion passes by a vote of 8 to nothing with 1 absent. Now we will vote on consent agenda item F, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Brighton, Colorado, appointing Greg Young as an at-large member of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board to fill an unexpired term to January 2020. Any discussion? What's the pleasure of council? Councilman Blackhurst?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Have a motion. Do I have a second? Councilman Johnston?
Be happy to second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Are we going to, Natalie, are we going to just continue voting in this format?
I would ask the city attorney to let us know how we want to move forward with this.
Each one of these items was separated.
Oh,
Okay.
I see it. Okay,
So-
they're separated. Very good.
So we
Thank
can
you.
move forward with that?
Yes.
Okay.
There we go. All votes cast. Motion passes by a vote of 8 to nothing with 1 absent. Next item then would be consent agenda item G, resolution of the City Council of the City of Brighton, Colorado, appointing Corey Mall as an alternate member of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board with a term to January 2023. Any discussion? What's the pleasure of council? Councilwoman Baca.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion approving the resolution of the City Council, City of Brighton, appointing Corey Mall as an alternate member of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board with a term to January 2023.
Thank you. Second. Councilwoman Pollock.
I'll make the motion. I'll second that motion. Sorry.
Have a proper motion and a second. Roll call vote. All votes cast. Motion passes by a vote of 8 to nothing with 1 absent. Next item is consent agenda item H, a resolution of the City Council of City of Brighton, Colorado, reappointing Dave Swanson as an agricultural member of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board with a term to January 2023. Any discussion? What's the pleasure of council? Councilman Johnston?
Be happy to make a motion to approve item H.
Have a motion. Do I have a second? Councilman Waller.
I'll second that. Thank you.
Have a proper motion and a second. Roll call vote. All votes cast. Motion passes by a vote of 8 to nothing with 1 absent. Or with 1 absent, yes. Next item is consent agenda item I, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Brighton, Colorado, reappointing Amanda Griffin as a member of the District Plan Commission with the term to January 2023. Any discussion? Councilman Johnston.
Yeah, this is the individual that I did want to say, and this isn't just because of the individual. I think we need to be careful with how close politically that anyone that is on our boards and commissions, how close they are with both present and former council members. This is a individual that actually runs campaigns and helps to run campaigns against and for council members. And what that might do in the long run is change decision-making process. And it's not just because of this individual that I'm saying this. I'm saying this could set a precedent for a long time if we end up going through this the way we are right now, to where any individual that we don't know has any connection, and then all of a sudden we have it on our desk, it's gone through the board and commission, and all they did was talk to their boss. That literally can happen when they are running political campaigns inside of our city. So that's the piece of my discussion, and that's why I urge the rest of council to vote no on this actual reappointment. Be happy to listen to Ms. Griffin if she is in the room and have a discussion about this, but as of right now, I'm definitely a no, and would be a no to anyone, even my own campaign manager, if they tried to get on a parks and on any kind of our boards and commissions. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Councilman Blackhurst.
Yes, I understand where Councilman Johnson is coming from. However, the reason we took this out of the hands of council in making these decisions was so it wouldn't be political, and so the boards themselves, these in this case the Agricultural District Plan Commission, was the ones that made this recommendation based upon her performance, I assume, because she's been on the board before. It isn't in the hands of political elected officials, but in that board. And so for us to be second guessing at this point, we need to either change our system, and I think if we go back to the system we had before, we would be indeed being political on these appointments instead of letting the board that's responsible make those selections. That would be my position.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councilwoman?
Thank you. Mayor, I appreciate it. And I appreciate the discussion from the council members. And I would concur with Councilmember Blackhurst is the appointment recommendations now come from the board themselves. They don't interview with the city council. I think that was to maybe bypass a conflict such as this. I don't see it as a conflict. I think that there are community members, whether it's in their professional position, that serve on a number of boards and commissions with the city, and I don't see this as a conflict. All of our boards and commissions, just as the city council also has to, signed a non-conflict of interest form. I understand that Amanda Griffith has been affirmed by the District Planning Commission, and she currently serves as the vice chair.
Would anybody else like to speak prior to Councilman Johnson speaking a second final time? I'll chime in on this one. We ask citizens to serve our community in a variety of different boards and commissions based upon criteria other than who they support for this council. This individual campaigned against me, but she has been an active member of our community and an active member of this board, and the mere fact that she didn't support me does not by any means mean that I think that she can do a poor job on this commission. And as stated earlier, I think that takes the politics out of it. And so that's my statement. Anybody else like to speak prior to Mr. Johnson speaking one more time? Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, and I really do appreciate those comments by all three made just now. It's not this individual. It's not just this individual I'm doing this for. I want to be really clear about that. Yeah, she campaigned heavy against many of us. That doesn't matter, and she's qualified. It's the idea that, I served for 4 years on the Planning Commission and really took it seriously. There's the other side of this, too, where what I'm hearing, and no disrespect, this really does just become a rubber stamp. If we don't have any questioning of this whatsoever when anyone comes up here and is trying to be placed on any board or commission, whether we have prior knowledge about them and their attitude or how they might be, that should have some kind of, we should be able to get some clarification that our boards and commissions have individuals on it that show integrity, one, that will be on social media correctly, too, which this individual is not. But then beyond her, once again, how is this not a rubber stamp? If all we do is say, yep, good job, board and commission, put them on and go on through. How do we know we're getting the correct people if they're not even in the room? I understand. I don't think we got rid of the previous process in any way to simply get rid of the politics. I think that was a time thing when I was in the study session. That's what was discussed, this was about saving time in a council meeting compared to, and there's just a fine line between saving time, rubber stamping people that actually mean a lot to our city. These positions mean a ton. And for us to just say, here we go. So maybe if you all want to go ahead and do what you want to do with your vote, I'm definitely a no on this particular one. But I want to really talk about this in a study session in the future. We need to really figure this out and figure out the protocol for this. That's all I have. Thanks.
Councilman Wallen.
The discussion's a good one, and I appreciate everyone's comments. It did jar my memory a little bit in that it does seem that the desire was to have the interview process in the hands of the boards and then have their recommendation sent to the council for approval. So, it is, all of these boards are still an extension of the city council, and by that must be approved by the city council. So, I don't think it was, the entire, policy was to move that whole decision over to them. It was for us to, the previous way was we would interview them and tell them who they're going to get, right? So by turning it the other way, we were asking them to do the interviews and then provide us with recommendations in the same way that recommendations are provided on any kind of matter given by any one of the boards. So I think there still is room for, if there's a different process, then we wouldn't have a opportunity now to vote on it. So ultimately it is the decision of the council who gets appointed to those boards, but probably room for more conversation on this matter. But I appreciate you bringing those things up. Thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Certainly, in my opinion, we have very intelligent people working on our boards and commissions, and they are the ones who many times have firsthand knowledge, because I'm going to be the first to admit I don't know everybody on each one of these committees. But I will tell you that when I ran a bank, I found out right away it's not good for me to go out and hire the teller, and then the teller has to go out and work with the supervisor and the head teller. And I really enforce my opinion upon this person, upon them, and their firsthand knowledge of that particular job. So I found out right away in my particular business. I brought the supervisor and head teller in and said, okay, let's have this interview process and you two connect the interview, because you're going to be the one working with them and knowing whether or not their personalities may or may not fit with the other 15 employees. And so I guess I look that we have the boards and commissions and they have the expertise to have previously worked, in this particular case, with a member, and they certainly recommended that particular member. So, I'm going to take what they say. Otherwise, why do we have them there? If we're going to make every decision for them, then why do we have all the commissions? Why don't we just take them all over? So I'm going to rely upon our people to do their job.
We're good. Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, okay.
Really quick, Mr. Mayor. I just have to say, how many people applied for this? We already have a problem, I understand, of not getting enough applications. I don't know if this was as competitive as what I've just heard about right now. I know that on the Planning Commission we had problems filling seats. It's gotten better, but let's be realistic. If someone wants to serve on one of our volunteer boards, oftentimes they're the only person that wants to serve on the board. So let's not act like all these choices coming from our boards and commissions are saying. these are the best candidates. Sometimes it's the only. That's all. Thanks.
Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mayor. So I am intimately familiar with this board in particular, and this is an agreement and a collaborative effort between the City of Brighton and Adams County. And Adams County advertises their board and commission positions on their website along with their new hires, those types of postings. That's where you can find these types of postings. So since the recommendation came from the District Planning Commission, as heavily involved the county attorney is in their oversight over these boards and commissions, I am going to take the position that Adams County had made the necessary postings and has reviewed the applications with the selection committee, and that the council should take a vote. So I would like to call a vote. Thank you.
Further discussion? Roll call vote. Oh, wait. We need a motion. So, Councilwoman, was that a motion?
Yes, I will make a motion approving the resolution of the City Council, City of Brighton, Colorado, reappointing Amanda Griffin as a part of the District Planning Commission with a term to January 2023.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Councilman Blackhurst?
I will second that motion.
I have a proper motion and a second. Roll call vote. All votes cast. Motion passes by a vote of 5-3 with one absent. Next item on the agenda is ceremonies. Item 4A is the swearing in of new board and commission members. Madam City Clerk.
Do solemnly declare and affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Colorado, and the office of Parks and Recreation Advisory Board member, and will faithfully perform the duties of the office and about to.
Thank you for your agreeing to serve on these boards and commissions. Next item on the agenda is National Radon Action Month Proclamation. And I have a proclamation to read. Radon Action Month in Colorado. Whereas radon is an invisible, odorless, radioactive gas that threatens the health of our citizens and their families. And whereas radon is a leading environmental cause of cancer mortality in the U.S. and in the 8th leading cause of cancer mortality overall. And whereas the Colorado Rocky Mountain region has been ranked Zone 1 in an area with the highest radon potential possible by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. And whereas Colorado residential radon data has shown 50% of Colorado homes tested as being at or above the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency radon action level of 4.0, somebody help me, oh, there you go, picocuries per liter of air. And whereas any home in Brighton, Colorado may have elevated levels of radon, and even homes in the same neighborhood do not. And whereas supporting recommended radon practices and policies to reduce radon exposures is important to protect our community's health and welfare. And whereas testing for radon is simple and expensive. And whereas identified radon problems can be fixed. And whereas Tri-County Health Department, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and the American Lung Association are supporting efforts to encourage Americans to test their homes for radon, have elevated levels of radon reduced, and have new homes built with radon-resistant features. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Kenneth J. Kreitzer, the Mayor of the City of Brighton, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of January is National Radon Action Month in Brighton, Colorado, dated this 15th day of January, 2019. What is the pleasure of council? Councilmember Mills.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to just comment real quick before this moves forward. As stated, here in the state of Colorado, about 50% of the homes can have radon levels above what is considered safe. And my home was one of those tested that came out as above what was safe. And I think it's important for the citizens to be aware that this is a real problem. I think I read the statistics for Adams County. About 55% of the homes are estimated to have radon levels above what's considered safe. And so I would encourage every citizen, really every citizen, to get their homes tested. If you divide this room in half of us probably have that problem in our homes. So just be aware of that. Thank you. And I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the National Radon Action Month proclamation.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Councilwoman Paul?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to second that motion.
I have a proper motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. All votes cast. Motion passes by a vote of 8-0 with 1 absent. Mr. Rodriguez, is there somebody here to accept this proclamation?
Mayor, thank you. This evening, that item actually came to us through you as a council, through a couple of your members. So I don't know if a member of council may wish to do so.
We will pass that down to Councilman Mills. Then.
Thank you.
Very good. Next item on the agenda is the presentation of the turkey trot check to the Senior Advisory Board. Mr. Rodriguez?
Thanks so much, Your Honor. This one, obviously, we have an absolutely wonderful, active Senior Advisory Board. And so I'm going to ask Jeffrey and Sue to both come up for a moment. And I know they were going to share with us, but also I think you brought some folks with you, correct? Yeah, come on up.
Good evening. Well, I'm on. I was looking for the button. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Really appreciate you having us here tonight. I just wanted to take a quick moment to recognize our race director, and she can tell you, take another moment to tell you a little bit about the race, and then we'll get to the good stuff with the senior center and the check as well. So, Turkey Trot has been going on for 35 years now. I've been with the city 19. When I started here, we had about 100 runners pretty regularly year over year. And now we're doing about 1,000. So it's a race of significant size, brings tons of people into the city from really all over the state. It's an awesome race, and I wanted to recognize Valerie as our race director. It takes our whole staff to pull this off. Valerie leads us in that, so I'll let her give you a few details.
Hi, my name is Valerie Rodriguez, and I'm super excited to come tonight. I was wanting to come last month. You guys were too busy for us, so here we are. Just a couple little stats. We had over 900 people come. There were over 13 sponsors, and they're all Brighton sponsors that come and help us, support the race. Several prizes that we gave out, and just to give you a few little stats. Overall male winner won the race in 16.29 minutes. Okay. Following right behind him was the fastest female with 18.08. So not bad. But, if you're thinking, well, you can't compete with those people, we have our oldest walker, who is 87 years old. He placed second in his age division with a time of 49 minutes. So, there's still hope for the rest of us. We had well over 35 volunteers to help with the race this year, which made a huge, huge difference. We have a new staff person that helped us get a lot of the volunteers. I love and support the sponsors that we have every year. We have some of them. This will be my 12th race. I've done 11 races, and we have managed to give several dollars to the senior center year after year, and I'm just so grateful to get to do it every year. And tonight we wanted to make sure and make that a point to share some good news once in a while. So thanks for all your support for letting me do what I do. I appreciate it greatly. And Sue, want to come on up?
Okay. Good evening, City Council members. We're very happy to be here. Anytime there's money involved coming in, we're very happy to be here. We really want to tell you folks how much we appreciate your support of the Eagle View Adult Center. There are so many people who are benefiting so much from that center. Sue has some statistics about it, but the last year that we were in the old center, the total number of program participants was 23,979. This year, 41,390. It has just expanded exponentially. And Sue will give you much more information about this. We thank you. We thank you. And we thank you for the proceeds from the turkey trot, because there are some of us in this community that can't trot anymore. And so these funds will go to a great extent, these funds and more, will go to the VIA mobility transportation, which will provide free rides to and from Eagle View Adult Center for seniors. That VIA will also take people to other locations, to the grocery store, to the hairdresser, to the doctor, but not for free. The amount of money that Turkey Trot has generated will be balanced by funds from the board's money. It's not our money, but the senior center money. And it's going to be money well spent. Money well spent. It's a good use of this Turkey Trot check.
Very good.
We have with us tonight Dave Thomas, who is our treasurer, Judy Schisler, a board member, Roger Peer, a board member, and Sue.
And Sue. We going to present the check?
Yeah, let's do the check.
Introduce yourself. Jane Talbot.
Yeah.
Thank you so
And I'm
much.
not sure Jane Talbot introduced herself, but that's Jane.
We will.
Come on in. Can we get in the check? Oh, there we go. There we go.
What's the amount on the check?
I was just going to turn it around for you.
Isn't
$9
that
grand.
wonderful?
Wow, super.
Thank you so much.
I have the opportunity to work the turkey trot every year, and I have to tell you, that staff and their volunteers have just, you walk in there and it is just like everything is just cranking right along. And you have a very, what did she say, well-oiled machine over there. It's our pleasure to be part of Turkey Trot, and we're so honored that we have been selected as the recipient of that for several years now. Since Valerie took over, it really has, the numbers have increased. And every year we get asked, what are you going to do with the money? And we support our health clinic, and we do other things around the center. But this year it just really rang true to us that with that money and the money that we're able to raise ourselves, that we can really offer rides for those who can't walk or who can't run or who can't get to the center otherwise. And so we're excited. It should be great. So thank you so much, Valerie. Thank you, Jeffrey. We appreciate it. If you don't mind, I have just I'm sorry.
Yeah, let
Thank
me speak up on Sue's behalf. is that today she made a presentation to the board and in a number of different areas, and then there's been a survey that's been completed regarding the senior center, and I have requested Sue, with approvals from the city manager and Parks and Rec, to provide us a brief update of how the center is doing. So Sue is going to do that, even though Jane took a little bit of your thunder.
I love that.
On the deal.
Love that. Thank you so much, JW. JW is the city council representative to our board and has been for a couple of years now, and we are grateful for his support. I understand that he does give you regular updates as far as what we do, so we train him right over there at Eagleview. Jane alluded quickly earlier as far as the growth that we've seen. And you know that there's that old saying that if you build it, they will come. Well, they were coming before, but we also knew that the only way that our program could ever really grow and develop to what it really needed to be was if we expanded. And our old center that we loved truly and just have such fond memories of just couldn't support that. So when we opened up in 2012, I can't believe it's been that long already that we've been there. They have continued to come. And as Jane said, we saw 17,411 more people in our recreation and social programs. And the one that she didn't tell you is in our service programs. And our services are things like our health clinic, our meal program that we serve meals Monday through Thursday, our outreach program where we help people figure out Social Security or how their benefits are going to come around, or simple things like LEAP it's a government program, LEAP applications that are simple. But we have staff and we have volunteers that are there to do that. And that program has grown 6,742 more visits and people that we've helped in that since we left our old center. So the thing that has been so crucial to everything that we believe in, from when we were at our old center to our new. A building is just a building, and they hear me, this is like they're probably going, oh my God, here she goes again. A building is just a building. It's the people that make it work. And we are blessed to have volunteers that are willing to give whatever it is that it takes to do. We have instructors. We have a small staff. We have the support of Jeffrey and of Gary and the other folks around the city. We couldn't do it without finance and all of the other departments that are there in IT. But it is the people, and that's what we believe in, and that's what we're going to stand by. And it's a beautiful building, and you walk in there and you just go, gosh, this is great. It feels so warm and inviting. And then you have somebody that says hello to you. One of my favorite quotes from our survey, which we had, like you saw, several pages, but one of my favorite quotes was, we asked them, what's the best thing about the Eagleview Adult Center? And they said, the friendliness without judging. No one laughs at me. It's just kindness. And kindness is what we really practice and we preach. And to know that someone can walk into a building and they can feel comfortable and they can feel loved and they can feel valued. And that's what we strive for each and every day. Our survey that we did, it's called a customer satisfaction survey. It's not a needs assessment. It's a customer satisfaction survey. We do one every 4 years. And it's kind of interesting just because the numbers, we mailed out 1,625 and we got back 644. So if anybody knows, that's a 39% return, which is pretty darn good for a survey, you know? Especially when we tried not to make it too lengthy, but you always have to give people a chance to talk. There's two things I want to just share with you and then I'm done. But in 2014, we asked the question, you were rating the following, and it was the Eagleview Adult Center. So in 2014, we'd only been there for 2 years. We had 475 people answer that question. We had 81.52% said it was great, and then another 14.35 said it was good. So that was 95.87. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
We asked that same question in 2018 and we had 612 people answer. We got 82% that said it was great. We got 14% that said it was good for 97.11%, which was we went up by 2%. So that's pretty good in those 4 years. Again, I want to thank each and every one of you for the support that the council has given to Eagle View Adult Center and to our Parks and Recreation Department overall. Without the parks guys coming and doing the maintaining and the facilities people, we wouldn't have a building. And the building is important, but again, we wouldn't have the people that are there. Our volunteers, 9,043 recorded hours this year. We use approximately 90 volunteers each month. We have anywhere from 40 to 60 instructors, and we have a staff of 9 part-time and full-time people. So thank you. And JW, I would be remiss if I didn't say 2 things. First of all, we do a fundraiser every year, and it's called Deck the Walls, and that is part of how we were able to raise the money that we're going to match the turkey tart proceeds. We also do a fundraiser, and it's called the Spaghetti Luncheon. And the Spaghetti Luncheon, I believe, we're into our 31st year. They had them before I came. They had one before I came, and then we've continued it on since then. As a board member, you are asked to sell a minimum of 10 tickets. JW will be selling tickets to each and every one of you that is sitting in front of me, and I invite you to come. The date of the Spaghetti Luncheon is Saturday, March the 2nd. Thank you again so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sue. Well done.
Councilmember Mills.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Sue, for your presentation. And I just wanted to comment, for anybody that hasn't been to the Eagle View Adult Center, it's a real gem in our community. I encourage any of you to just go visit. I mean, I feel welcome, and I'm 44 years old when I go there. And my dad used to go there. Sue already knows about this. And before he could not go there anymore due to some of his health concerns, it was a time that really brightened his day to go over there and have lunch with people and just visit with friends. And so anybody that just wants to go out and just be with people and enjoy good conversation, go have lunch with the people over at the Eagle View Adult Center. It's a great place. And so I appreciate what you do over there to make it a great place to be and welcome. So, and by the way, this VIA thing, it saves. I don't think the numbers were told, but it's like $450 per trip. So that's a $9 round trip for people to go and just to have lunch or take a class or whatever they want to do over there. So that's going to be a big savings to the people in our community to be able to go call that VIA just so they can go and participate in the community center there. So thank you. Thank you for approving that as your board and everything.
Thank you.
I would echo. I don't think the thanks needs to come our way. I think the thanks needs to go your way and to those who are working at the facility and who are enjoying the facility, because it is a beautiful facility and it's just a bright spot in Brighton. So thank you guys for all your work.
Thank you very
good.
much. All right. Well, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is item 5, public invited to be heard on matters not on the agenda. And I don't have anything, Natalie, do you? Thank you. Then we go to item 8, resolutions. Item 8A is a resolution of the City Council of City of Brighton, Colorado, accepting the bid of Beacon Communications, LLC, and awarding the contract for Phase 2 City Hall Security Systems Upgrade, Project 99908, to Beacon Communications, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $73,122, and authorizing the mayor to sign the contract on behalf of the city and the city clerk to attest thereto. Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. Mayor Council, I'll ask Chris Cassidy, our network administrator, to present this item to you for your consideration. Chris?
Good evening, Council. Mayor Kreitzer. Tonight before you, I have the City Hall Security Upgrades Phase 2 project for consideration. So this goes along with the strategic focus areas of supportive, sustainable infrastructure and safe, active, and engaged community. The phase 1 background, what was done there is it was completed in 2017. We implemented the paging system here at City Hall, also the card-activated lockdown panic buttons, and magnetic releases for the utility building and one-stop areas here on the first floor, and first floor speakers and entrance cameras as well. Current challenges we're experiencing is limited speaker volume and range of the current speakers, no visual and elevator hallways in the basement and 2nd through 6th floors, no ADA compliant strobe lights for lockdown procedures as well. The scope of work we'd like to do is add 29 ADA compliant strobes for lockdown procedures, add 2 cameras per elevator hallway on 6 floors, basement and 2nd through 6th floors, add 70 speakers total to existing floors, 2nd through 6th for better audio coverage and for paging, programming of strobes and speakers with existing systems. Our recommendation is that Council approve Beacon Communications LLC for this work. Beacon has performed the work for phase 1 of the security project, and this project is part of the approved capital budget for IT. And the project estimated time frame will take about 6 weeks to complete. Any questions?
Questions of Chris? Councilman Mills?
Thank you. Thank you for your brief presentation. Just one quick question. The strobe lights. When I think of strobe lights, I think of a dance party. So will you explain those a little bit better?
So we have, it's like that fire one right there, right above. There's a little light on it. It just flashes like a fire alarm type deal. It's not like a real excessive strobe per se.
Okay.
But it's enough to get the attention.
All right.
Other questions? Unfortunately, we've come to a part in society to where we need extra security in a building, especially like this one. And there are other buildings I know in the Denver metropolitan area that had instances that they definitely wish they'd had those things. So it's much better to be proactive on something like this rather than to react. Councilman Blackhurst.
Yes, quick question. The cameras, will they be in the hallways, or you're not going to have cameras inside of the elevators?
No, so we're going to have them in the hallways and the corridors, right there, essentially in the corners. So we'll have visual of the elevator area and also the corridors beside the elevator to catch the stairwell entry door as well. Okay. So that whole area will be covered along with the hallways on the side.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Matters before council, what's your pleasure? Councilman Mill, let's get you there. Wallen.
I move to approve Resolution 8A in the amount not to exceed $73,122.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Councilman Johnston?
Be happy to second that motion.
Have a proper motion and a second on this item. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. All votes cast. Motion passes by a vote of 8-0 with 1 absent. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is item 9A, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Brighton, Colorado, acting by and through its water activity enterprise, accepting the bid of Farnsworth Group Incorporated and awarding the contract to the South Platte Wells Transmission Project to Farnsworth Group Inc. in an amount not to exceed $258,159, and authorizing the mayor to sign the contract on behalf of the city and the city clerk to attest thereto. Mr. Rodriguez will be presenting.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mayor Council, this is one of many projects that you'll see come through this year for the large utilities capital projects fund that you just passed in December. And so I kind of want to make that note because this is one of many where we're putting good money to use out of our utility fund. And I'll ask Mike Woodruff, our Director of Infrastructure, to come present the item and request your approval. Mike.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Before you tonight, staff is requesting approval for the design work on the South Platte Wells transmission design project, and I will walk you through that project through a PowerPoint presentation at this time. The strategic focus area that this program or project identifies is supportive and sustainable infrastructure. We'll go through the project background, project details, the RFP process and results, and the staff's final recommendation. Project background: currently the city has a 24-inch raw water line that currently goes down Bromley from the South Platte Wells to the RO facility. That 24-inch water line was installed in 1959, making that line roughly about 60 years old. Some of the valves on the existing line are non-functional at this time. The line is in, I wouldn't consider it relatively poor condition, but is in somewhat poor condition. Let's just put it that way. Due to the existing line's age and condition, the new and redundant line should be designed and installed so that we can provide interrupted service from South Platte transmission, the South Platte Wells, to the RO plant in the future should we have a line break on that existing line or need to perform maintenance on that line at this time. In addition to this scope and design, the project includes a potable water main design. Currently, we have a 12-inch water line that converts down to an 8-inch water line, back to a 12-inch water line in Bromley Lane at this time. This project would also allow for the design, the upsizing of that line, 8-inch line to a new 12-inch line in order to provide enhanced water quality and delivery services at that particular location. And that line is located, as you'll notice here on the diagram, on the north side of Bromley. And the scope of work for this particular project will be to design 14,000 linear feet of 24-inch raw water transmission pipeline, which is delineated by the purple line located along the south edge of Bromley now from basically 5th Avenue and Bromley down to the RO facility located here. It'll be issued for construction drawings so that we'll have drawings ready to go for construction of this line in the future. And there'll also be a hydraulic analysis proposed to take a look at the existing line and the new line and analyze any significant break scenarios that may occur while both lines are in operation, and to ensure that we can continue to feed raw water to the RO plant during any disruption in service on the existing 24-inch line. And again, the 12-inch water main is here. We'll be abandoning a section of line basically right through here and down and replacing with a stretch of 8-inch water main. And that is a potable water line, so it is delivering drinking water. And that design work will be for 2,650 linear feet of 12-inch potable water line, and we'll also get construction drawings issued to us for that line also. Formal requests for proposals were taken on September 18th of 2018. We had 8 proposals that were received. Staff analyzed and evaluated the proposals, and that is included in your packet tonight. And Farnsworth Group, Inc. was determined to be the most responsive and responsible bidder with a proposed price not to exceed $258,159. The final recommendation of staff is that we believe that accepting the proposal from Farnsworth Group, Inc. for the design services for the South Platte Wells transmission project would accomplish the following. 1, will provide long-term reliable infrastructure for the transfer of South Platte Wells raw water to the RO plant for treatment and distribution to customers. It'll provide a redundant line to supplement the existing and aging transmission line. It'll provide hydraulic analysis during design to minimize outage scenarios with a new and redundant line, and also mitigate the potable water main bottleneck to improve hydraulics and water quality in the system. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions for you.
Super. Councilwoman Baca.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your presentation, Michael. So my question is, so we had a development come to the City Council. It's been several months, and they were interested in their project, and they needed some kind of lines, and I apologize, I'm not up to speed on all the different technicalities of the lines, transmission, and so on and so forth. What type of line were they needing that they were potentially looking at having to cross private property or acquire private property? And could that be rolled into a project like this, since it's also going to be on Bromley Lane?
I would defer that to the city manager.
Yeah, so I'll turn it back to Mike in just a second, but it was a stormwater relief, and so I'm not sure if you guys have looked at the potential of utilizing any existing. Typically, those lines are small to convert storm to water, or I'm sorry, to convert a water line to a storm line. But certainly, I don't know if that's something you guys can look at, but it probably creates some relief, I would imagine, on Bromley. But
that's certainly something we could look at. I was not aware of that situation, at this time, but it's certainly something that staff could look at and see if there is an option or some feasibility there to utilize that in the future for that purpose.
So I don't know if it was conversion of a water line to a storm line, but I understood that there was some need from that developer to create storm drainage, and then because of elevation, and there was an issue that the construction, it would be far too costly to do that on Bromley Lane. So since we're already going to be doing work on Bromley, that was my question, is if that work can be conducted on Bromley Lane while this work is also being conducted. Does that make sense?
yeah, it does. So they have not been able to put together. I don't know that they have any submittals to us yet. Correct, Marv? Yeah. So I think it would be difficult timing-wise if we were to wait for them potentially. But at the same time, since this is largely a design project, then the potential of when we get to the construction level, if there's more activity by that point that's matured, then I think it's certainly worth looking at. Absolutely.
Sure. We could absolutely look at that for you.
Thank you.
Councilman Mills.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mike, for your presentation. So you said this line is in the middle of Bromley Lane, or it goes on the edge of Bromley Lane? Where are we digging?
The line is on the south side. The transmission line is on the south side of Bromley Lane.
So it's not on the street that we just repaved last year?
At this point in time, depending upon the alignment that the designer comes back with, it could impact the existing roadway in Bromley Lane. Yes.
So my concern, though, is we just got done with a repaving project, and now we're looking to possibly tear into that when this could have been tied in as a single project or a combined project at least.
That is true. There is a possibility that could happen, and I can assure you that with bringing operations together the way we have over the last few months, that we will be looking diligently in the future at making sure that things like that don't happen in the future. There needs to be communication between both street operations and public works and utility operations to make sure that we're coordinating projects so that we're not putting in a new road, coming back and tearing it up, or vice versa. So we will be looking at that in the future. There is a possibility, depending upon the final design of this line, that we will be cutting into the roadway in Bromley.
Thank you for also clarifying that you were likely not part of that decision last year, as we had a different director in that role. So yeah, that's just my concern, is we need to go forward in any project that involves water lines, storm drains, and road projects. We need to really combine those together as one, because the citizens are going to see this road being torn up once again, and they're going to be wondering, why is the city tearing up a road that just got repaved? And that's a real concern to me. So
I disagree, and I will assure you that those procedures are there in place now.
Thank you.
Councilman Blackhurst.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael, for your presentation. This contract is for the engineering, right?
That is correct, the design engineering.
Some of these questions are fairly technical. Our RO plant's pretty much maxed out in capacity. Is that correct?
As we're operating now under state guidelines, yes.
So we really don't need permanently those two 24-inch lines, both of them full of water, to bring additional water. Is that correct?
At this time, I would have to defer to our treatment staff, which is not here this evening, but it would be my understanding that over time we would only need one of those transmission lines. That is correct.
You've probably already determined then that 24-inch line, assuming at some point the old line, 50 years old, or 60? How old?
60.
is getting up there close to some of our age up there on that. That line probably won't last forever, so this line would be a line that would replace that line, correct?
Yes, sir, that's true.
So 24 inches is going to be big enough. I guess my bottom line is if we're going to go through the expense of putting that line in, which is the majority expense, I assume that your staff has looked at, and 24-inch line is sufficient in capacity if it was the only line sometime in the future.
That is correct. Based on staff recommendations, a 24-inch line is the line that needs to be constructed.
What do you think that line, what's the ballpark estimate of what that we're going to be seeing?
I prefer not to provide an estimate just for the simple fact there's a lot of variables that go into that, some dealing with whether or not there has to be additional roadway reconstruction associated with it or not.
It's likely going to be a multi-million-dollar.
It will be a multi-million-dollar project.
And when do you anticipate that project will be able to get at that project?
We anticipate design to be completed yet this year, and we will probably look at placing that in the 2020 budget.
Thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thanks, Michael. I guess I'm a little bit confused. We're going to replace part of a line that goes from 12 inches to 8 inches back to 12.
That is correct.
Okay. And that section of pipe will be replaced with what kind of pipe? Or what's the existing 12-inch pipe?
I cannot tell you what the existing 12-inch pipe is. I would assume that under this scenario, we'll either be looking at ductile iron or a PVC pipe that will be reinstalled, the 12-inch line.
Okay. And then the plan is at some point in time of this study is then replace the old 24-inch line?
No, the study that we will have done here will basically analyze what scenarios may crop up associated with the older 24-inch line in order to mitigate future problems. So what they'll do is they'll look at break scenarios associated with the 24-inch line, the existing line, and what impact that will place on the new line. Then we can evaluate the exact condition and overall use of the existing 24-inch line for the future. The existing 12-inch line that goes to an 8 back to a 12, all we're doing there is replacing that section of 8-inch line with 12-inch in order to take that bottleneck out.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else want to speak prior to Councilwoman Baca speaking a second time? Okay, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate Councilmember Mills bringing up the coordinated effort of operations and infrastructure. So to give you just a little bit of background on that, my recollection is in the spring of 2017, roughly, the council came together and we provided, it wasn't emergency funding, but it wasn't funding that went through the normal budget process because we felt that the roadway conditions in Brighton that we needed to make some improvements where we were falling behind. And Bromley Lane was one of those projects, and it was actually split into two portions of Bromley Lane. We did East Side Bromley Lane and West Side Bromley Lane, and I can't remember where the cutoff was. I want to say it was around Poppy Drive, roughly. So I don't think that that was to the demise of the previous administration or directors, and it's not to the credit of the current administration or directors. I think that was a council-driven effort of, we have the money, let's go out and put pavement down. And this project at the time may have not have been known. So anyway, that was the background on it, is that it was funding that we had approved that we wanted to get spent within the construction season.
Councilmember Mills.
Thank you. My concern is just any road project we look at in the future, we need to look and see if there's any utilities that need to be addressed before we're putting new pavement, putting that new lipstick on the road. So we just don't want to see ourselves as wasting money because a lot of people already think that. So thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez.
So I'll be brief. The only thing I wanted to add was, to the credit of what we did over the course of the 75-day work plan was merge utilities and public works together. And so going forward, it really is, Mike is the director of all of that. And so while there will be certainly engineers working on different components, different parts, there will be assistant directors, all of that. Part of this really is having the ability for the director of infrastructure to manage that as one unit versus two subdivided units. So I really do think a lot of any questions or concerns going forward about timing and project overlap, and because ultimately it does cost money, right, to have to go do that again. And that was the intent really of bringing those two groups together, and I think Mike's doing a good job of that so far. So thank you.
Thank you. I concur with the fact that if we're gonna, I mean, my notes here, I tear up Bromley, and that's, I hear that a lot. It seems like we just paved, and I understand that we all don't have crystal balls, but boy, if we know that we're looking at maybe in a couple of years going and doing this major work down Bromley, and if we could tell our citizens, look, we're going to do this, and this, and we're not going to have to get back into it again, it's just an easier sell. And I think that we could squash a couple, and I've heard that. I'm just reiterating. Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I do agree that it would be horrible to keep going back on our streets and tearing them up. That is obvious, but I do appreciate that you are one department now, and I think that will solve some of these issues. Thanks, City Manager Rodriguez, for saying that. But now here's my spiel that you've all heard a lot of times, is that Councilman Wallen and I, we're paying for our pipes still. We still pay for our pipes every month in our Metro District tax. We still pay for an HOA fee. Across the street where all of these pipes are going to help, and not that we don't need to help all of our city, do not get me wrong there, I'm just saying, no HOA, no Metro District fee at all. 1/3 of the city that's already paying for their pipes through a Metro District tax that at this point is almost $500 a month that I get overall. Let's be really clear about that. We now have to pay for these pipes when the people in these neighborhoods, my father-in-law and mother-in-law, I hope you're not listening, I know you live in that neighborhood, but fact is that they don't have to pay any of that. Yet Councilman Wallen, myself, our city manager, and 1/3 of the city now in East Brighton now has to pay for another set of pipes through tax funding in a certain way. While I understand we have to do these things, I want to hear why, if we don't do this, what is going to happen if we somehow vote this down tonight? What happens with this pipe? Is it going to fail? Why is this now? Why is this the thing we're doing now? So I can somehow go back to my constituents and tell them, yep, we're paying for more pipes down in the center of town.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. Mayor and council members, this line is in very poor condition. We have valves that are not operating on the line currently. If the line does break, it is our only feed of raw water to the RO facility, so it would impact water delivery services, drinking water delivery services to a large portion of the community at any given time. It is a project that needs to be undertaken. We are looking hard at the maintenance of our system. It's something that we need to look at even harder as we go forward. This is just one component of that. This is a project that needs to be done in order to ensure the integrity of the system, and that's why we brought that forward to be constructed or designed and for construction.
That's good. That's exactly what I need to be able to say. And I appreciate where we're at as a city. I do. And I know you walked into this mess in many ways, but it's a big deal to us out there paying for pipes anywhere while we're still paying for ours at this high fee at all times. But I do appreciate your work and keep it up. Thank you very much.
Councilwoman Barker.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate Councilmember Johnson bringing that up, and that is definitely a bigger topic of conversation as the city moving forward. Someone that has grown up in original Brighton in the core area, I can tell you my family and myself included, I don't live in a metro district, is I see my water bill is that part of that is paying for maintenance. Part of that is paying for maintenance. So, and I think we need, when we talk metro districts, we need to talk about the extent of the infrastructure that the metro district is picking up. Is it just within, are you paying for your residential piping, or are you paying for piping that maybe would be a transmission line all the way down the length of something like Bromley Lane? In your case, it would be something like Bridge Street. So, or are you tying in somewhere? And I think that that's probably the variable that we need to look at as a city, because I tell you, I pay every single month. And I think maintenance comes with my water piping. And how narrowly are we going to split this hair is that when maintenance is one thing, but then when you have breaks, or you have emergency call outs, or you have something that goes on, we don't say this is getting charged to Ward 1, this is charged to Ward 2, this is charged to Ward 3. It's everybody's money. So at some point, just like police service, it's everybody's money. So, you know, we don't splice up the police service to say Core Brighton is getting more service than anybody else in the city, and no one else is getting as much service. So I think those are the things. Maintenance is one thing, and then how do you split up commonality services? So I'm not going to say anything. I think this is an item for study session. So I appreciate your presentation, and I think we're probably ready to vote. But I'll leave that to the mayor.
Yes. And Councilman Johnson, I thank you for withdrawing your question. I do think this is a conversation that we need to have, maybe at a time other than this topic. Matters before council. Councilman Blackhurst.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve 9A to the tune of $258,159.
Thank you. Councilman Mills.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll second that motion.
Have a proper motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. All votes cast. Motion passes by a vote of 8-0 with 1 absence. Thank you, Michael. Next item on the agenda is item 9B, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Brighton, Colorado, acting by and through its water activity enterprise, approving the amendment to the agreement between the City of Brighton and Urban Drainage and Flood Control Districts regarding design and construction of drainage and flood control improvements for the north outfall, and authorizing the city manager to execute said amendment on behalf of the city. Mr. Rodriguez, who will present.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll ask Michael Woodruff, our Director of Infrastructure, to once again present this item. Michael.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Before you tonight, staff has come requesting approval of an amendment to the existing intergovernmental agreement with the Urban Drainage and Flood Control District for the construction of drainage and flood control improvements for the North Outfall Denver Street Alignment Project. A little background information on this project. The IGA was entered into between the city and Urban Drainage Flood Control District back in 2006. The city has contributed a little over $3.7 million to that project to date, and Urban Drainage and Flood Control District has contributed a little over $1.6 million to the project to date. Funds for this project are in the amount of $750,000, and they're being utilized to complete a phase of the project for a total cost of $870,000 for construction of a network of piping and inlets and other infrastructure that will collect stormwater runoff from portions of the core city along the north outfall at Midland Street. This amendment is needed to incorporate Urban Drainage and Flood Control District's 2019 contribution of $120,000 and the city's 2019 contribution of $750,000 to the project account. The city's $750,000 contribution to this account is approved in the 2019 budget, and I'd be happy to answer any questions for you at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Woodruff. Questions and comments from council? Councilman Johnston.
I'll actually withdraw. Sorry. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Mills.
Thank you. Would you just clarify where? Is this a certain area, or this is just an overall amendment with flood control?
This will be constructing improvements that are associated with the north outfall, Denver north outfall line, Denver Street, but the improvements will be constructed in the area of 5th and Midland.
5th and Midland. Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Matters before council, what's your pleasure? Councilman Mills?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a motion to approve item 9B on the agenda.
Have we got a proper motion? Do I have a second? Mayor Pro Tem?
I will second that motion.
I have a proper motion and a second on this item. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. All votes cast. Motion passes by a vote of 8-0 with one absence.
Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Woodward. Next item on the agenda is reports by the mayor. First and foremost, I'd like to we thank the Youth Commission for meeting with us for dinner. We're going to do that quarterly. I know that with the new scheduling and so forth, I think some people it missed their schedule, but we've all got to figure out how to do those schedules and make sure we're there. It's a very important and good thing, but it was a real good time. It was a continuation, if you recall, when we had the youth summit and we agreed to meet with the Youth Commission quarterly. Very good event. I might also add that we did have a surprise drop-in. Councilman Humbert, on his way home from the hospital, dropped in and said hi. But it's good. I know Mark's at home watching, and we wish you a speedy recovery. Start off the year quick. I spent all last Saturday at the retreat of the Metro Mayors, the Denver Metro Mayors Caucus. 40 mayors from the metropolitan area get together to discuss issues that affect the whole region. Very good organization, and we set some priorities for the year. It was a good day spent very well. I might add that I saw an old friendly face at the caucus. Sitting behind the title of Deputy Mayor of Denver was Murphy Robinson. I think Murphy was a special assistant to the city manager. Anyway, Brighton police officer, he grew up here, in terms of the role of public service, kind of grew up in Brighton and then moved on, but he is the deputy mayor of Denver, and he is just doing a bang-up job, and it was good to see Murphy. I also met with the Adams County mayors. We hosted them in Brighton. We had a good discussion. It's really interesting to hear what's going on in various different communities, and I always walk away thinking, when we have our challenges and on council we have our disagreements, we're lucky guys. Anyway, and then also attended the board directors meeting for Adams County Economic Development. Just a lot of good, exciting stuff happening in Adams County. Reports by department heads. Anybody? City attorney? City manager?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll defer tonight as well. Thank you.
Reports by council on boards and commissions, and we'll start with you, Councilman Johnston.
Nothing to report.
Councilwoman Baca.
My meetings are coming up at the end of the month. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Actually, the youth commission dinner tonight was, for me, an exciting time to set one-on-one with those individuals. So that's good, and I look forward to those quarterly meetings. And then I think you got, you heard from Sue with the advisory board, and we're happy for the $9,000, and I will have spaghetti tickets next Tuesday. Thank you.
Councilman?
Thank you. Let's see, the Brighton Cultural Arts Commission met, and have I already given the report? It was late last year when we did our interviews for grant requests. Have I reported on that? Do you remember?
I don't believe so.
Because it was late in the year. So all 100% of the grants were able to be funded. So pretty cool. Yeah, they did a great job. They were really tasked with putting this thing together as quickly as possible, but there are just some really expert people on that board that were able to commit a lot of time and put it together. Also, the Eye for Art. As you see, we have a new cadre of art throughout the building. And I'd like to give invitations to all of you for next Friday is our Cycles of Life Art Show invitation. You could pass those down. That'll be on Friday, January 25th from 6 till 9 p.m. It's always a really nice event with all the artists are here to talk to and to visit to. You can go through all the different floors to look at the artwork. Also, I was going to mention on the Cultural Arts Commission, a new president was elected, a familiar name, Kathy Wardle. So we're all very confident in her abilities to help us through these times of increased responsibilities. And the Colorado Municipal League, we had an all-day meeting. We are interviewing new candidates for our executive director position with Sam Mammoth's retirement. So very soon there will probably be an announcement as to a new executive director.
Were there quite a few candidates for that?
Well, there were a number of people. One I would mention is Wayne Williams, former Secretary of State. Wow. So it certainly attracted people who were very qualified and very interested in promoting local control agendas for Colorado. So,
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman? Councilman Blackhurst?
I think I'll pass this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Mills?
Thank you. Most of my boards don't meet till later, but I just want to mention I was able to come to the Youth Commission gathering we had earlier before, and it was a great thing for all of us if we can to go do that. I know some of our calendars are a little wonky with the changeovers here, so it may not have appeared on all of our calendars appropriately. Last week I was privileged to go to the ribbon cuttings of Northeast Elementary and Overland Trail Middle School. They completed their bond projects, and they're looking good. I hadn't been in Northeast since they broke ground because my youngest kid started going to Overland this past school year, so I haven't had a reason to go inside until the ribbon cutting. So that was great to see that, and the openness to the newness to the school. And also this might be of interest to anybody sitting up here. The North Metro Chamber of Commerce has a business and government affairs committee that meets twice a month, and they just started theirs, and I was able to go to that last week. And if anybody has time on their, I think it's second and fourth Wednesday mornings, to go over there and just be part of that. There's some good people that talk about the legislation that's going on in Denver, and there's some great people to represent the north area of the metropolitan area. So thank you.
Thank you. I forgot to mention the Northeast and Overland Trail, but if you get a chance to go over to Northeast, you don't even need to go inside the building. But the Denver Broncos donated to Northeast, to our school district, their practice field from the valley, and they moved it. And so it's the big football field with the Bronco helmet, or the Bronco emblem right in the middle. It's uber cool, and those kids just think that's terrific. And it's neat that they've got a good surface like that. Compliments to the Broncos. Very good. Mayor Pro Tem.
I make the motion that we go into executive session for a conference with the city attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on Pacific legal questions under CRS Section 24-64024B regarding opioid litigation, and for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategies for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators under CRS Section 24-64024E regarding 269 East Bridge Street.
Have a motion to go into executive session. Do I have a second? Councilman Wallen?
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote. All votes cast. Motion passes 8-0 with one absent. We'll be going into executive session and we'll be returning to the open session.